About 50 times a year, someone calls here and asks me to help them get a B visa for a foreign friend or family member to enter the United States and come as a tourist and visit with them. This commonly is after they've already tried once and perhaps been denied, and the question becomes what's required. I know at one time it was a common practice for the American citizen to act almost as a sponsor and write letters of invitation and reassurance to the government that they would make sure this person left on time, that they would make sure this person had health coverage while they were here, that they would make sure of a bunch of different things. This is not the process anymore. You don't need to invite anyone. The American tourism industry is spending probably hundreds of billions of dollars on an annual basis inviting everyone on planet Earth to come here and be a tourist. And that could be to visit Niagara Falls, gamble in Las Vegas, ski in Aspen, surf in Malibu, anything. They're just the whole world's invited as long as they'll pay and qualify for a B visa. Every foreigner who's lawfully admitted into our country is admitted in one of two broad categories. And those two categories are immigrant and non-immigrant. We don't think of people who come to spend a week in Las Vegas as quote-unquote immigrants. We think of them as tourists. And that is because tourism is a non-immigrant purpose. They're not moving in. Immigrants are people that are moving here forever. So the B visa or tourist visa is a non-immigrant visa. Now, our government presumes that anybody who's let in the United States is going to want to stay here forever. Because of that, anyone who applies for any category of non-immigrant visa has to prove that they're not going to do that. They have to overcome the presumption that they have an intention to immigrate. Normally that's done by proving a couple of things. One, that the person applying for a non-immigrant visa has significant ties to the home country, something pulling them home. Two, that the non-immigrant is not in the process of developing significant ties here. And three, that the time in the United States won't destroy the things pulling them back home. For example, if there's a good job that they would lose if they were in the United States for 6 months. And that the time in the United States won't, of course, result in them forming more bonds with the United States. To get a B visa, there's no invitation required at all. The foreigner goes online, fills out a DS-160 application for non-immigrant visa, uploads a photo as part of that process, and then there'll be an appointment at the embassy or consulate. They'll have to print out the cover page when they do the online application and take that with them. It's got a barcode on it. When they get to the embassy or consulate, they're going to be questioned about non-immigrant versus immigrant intent. Do you have a family here? Do you own real estate here, meaning here in the home country? What's your purpose in the United States? Where do you intend on going? In many cases, people seeking a B visa are fraudulently trying to get in the United States on the easy, and then they plan on doing all sorts of things to permanently move in and stay. USCIS is pretty good at weeding that out. If you appear at the embassy looking for a B visa and you have no plans, you're going to go live on your friend's couch, this is not going to bode well for approval of your application. If you show up at the interview with an itinerary of hotels you're going to stay in and activities you're going to engage in, perhaps Broadway shows you're going to see or attractions you're going to visit, that would be more like you actually are a tourist. If you have no family in the home country and all the members of your family are in the United States, that will bode not so well for the grant of a B visa. Even though you may otherwise show that you're just a tourist, the fact that you're moving into the United States and you're leaving nothing behind and everything that's important to you, your children and grandchildren are here in the United States, they're going to presume immigrant intent there and they're going to deny a B visa. That doesn't mean you can't get in the United States. That just means you can't get in as a non-immigrant on a B visa. So I had some other tips here. Overcoming the presumption of immigrant intent is very difficult where the home country is a mess, where it's at war, where it's in civil war, where there's insurrections and horrible crime. Again, that's not necessarily something pulling you back there or pulling you here, but it's certainly something pushing you out of that place, and certainly something you wouldn't want to go back to if you didn't have to. Here's some other examples of things that help people overcome the presumption of immigrant intent. I've got a little bit of a list here. Ownership or lease of property in the home country, evidence of business or other holdings in the home country, documentation of the temporary nature of the visit. You've got to, even though a B visa is usually good for 180 days, you've got to return flight in 2 weeks. proof that you have the ability to make a trip of the length that you want to make without losing your job. This is particularly important where you're showing that you have a great job, say as an executive, that you wouldn't want to lose by moving to the United States, but you're going to the United States for 3 months. There'd be some question about what's going to happen to that job if you're left in the if you're not there for 3 months. A letter from your employer saying, we understand that this person is traveling to the United States and we're authorizing it, and the job will be here when they get back. Again, as I gave the example earlier of an itinerary, places you plan on staying, attractions you plan on visiting, family members. If you had a bunch of kids that needed your supervision that you'd be leaving behind if you moved to the United States, that can be good evidence that you're going home too. Obviously, a round-trip ticket is something that we'd be looking for. If you've only got a one-way ticket, that kind of indicates that you're not going back. So that's it. I mean, there's no invitation, there's no need for the person in the U.S. to show anything. There's very little control over the process. This is not reviewable. The decision by the consular officer to grant or deny a B visa is done in summary fashion based on that consular or embassy officer's assessment of whether this person has overcome the presumption of immigrant intent. If that isn't done to the satisfaction of the consular officer, you don't get the B visa. Now, you can reapply, but you wouldn't want to do that a week later. You'd have to wait a while. If you're successful at the interview, a B visa will be granted and affixed inside your passport by the consulate or embassy. That visa, in many cases, is good for 10 years. That doesn't mean you can enter the United States and stay in here for 10 years. Normal B visa admissions to the United States are for 180 days. That's 6 months. That means you have up to 6 months from when you enter the United States to go home. If you stay beyond that 6 months, you'll start accruing unlawful presence. You're an overstay. It will probably cancel your B visa, and you won't be allowed back in on a B visa. And after 180 days, you become inadmissible to the United States for 3 years. After 365 days, you become inadmissible to the United States for 10 years. I discourage strongly overstaying a B visa, particularly in light of the fact that we can get you an extension of another 6 months without having to go home in most cases. It's a relatively inexpensive process. I think the whole thing here goes out the door, including filing fees for around $1,200. And that would get you another 6 months in the United States if you wanted to extend your B visa. But overstaying the B visa is a very bad idea. Similarly, if you want to change your purpose in the United States, we can help you with that too. And again, for a similar fee of around $1,200, including filing fees. And that process will be change of status. For example, if you were here as a tourist and decided you want to engage in classes, take a class in something you found interesting while you were here, you would then want to switch to what's called an F status. That's a student visa, and that would allow you to stay as a student. And those have a very nice long duration, and that's how long you're in classes. So it's the duration of your studies instead of 180 days. Neither B nor F people can work. A B visa holder is not allowed to do any work of any type. That would be a violation of the B visa status and an immigration crime. It would make you subject to deportation. So I strongly discourage working and getting caught working on a B visa. So that's it. There's nothing for you, the citizen or resident of the United States, to do to get a B visa for your foreign friend or family member. There's a little bit that I could do to help you help them, but it's not something we'd apply for with USCIS. There's no letter that you have to send them or invitation or assurances you have to give the government. It really is based on your foreign friend or a family member, whoever it is that wants to come visit, overcoming the presumption of immigrant intent, and that's done by showing the temporary nature of the visit, the ties to the home country, the lack of ties here, the lack of activities that are going to result in the formation of ties here. We provide advisory services for people that are trying to get a B visa for their friends and family overseas. We do that on an hourly basis. If you have any interest in that, you can go ahead and call me. My name is Joe Murphy. I'm a lawyer with Allegheny Immigration Group. My office number is 412-521-2000. My cell, text, and WhatsApp are all the same number, 412-973-3442. If you haven't tried WhatsApp, I strongly encourage it. It's a pretty neat app. You download it. It's free for Android and iOS. You can text, chat, even video chat worldwide. It's free. It's international. It's encrypted. So it's a great tool for immigration lawyers like myself. And it's very good for you too. The encryption end-to-end is a nice privacy feature. And again, it's free for iOS and Android. You can download that on the App Store. I think you can also download it at whatsapp.com, but it's just a very nice interface, and I've really enjoyed it over the years.